Hi, and thank you for tuning in again this week to butterfliesdownhomerecipes.com. This week we're making a marinated London broil with a marinated summer vegetable slaw. To start with, we have our London broil, and we're going to start by seasoning it with some salt and pepper. You want to make sure to season both sides of your meat. This adds to the flavors. I like to use fresh cracked black pepper because this way it breaks down the oils as you're cracking it and it gives a better flavor to the pepper. I also like to use this seasoning. It's called Complete Seasoning. It has so much good flavor in it. It has onion powder, garlic powder, and lots of different herbs and spices. And then I'm going to use a Montreal steak marinade. Now if you have the time, you can make your own marinade, and I often do with some balsamic vinegar, garlic, onion, a little bit of oil. I like to use olive oil. But tonight we're taking a shortcut. You just want to pour it all over your steaks. And don't be afraid to get your hands in there and rub it in. Make sure you get the steak completely covered in the marinade. Once it's completely covered, you're going to cover it with some aluminum foil. And you're going to set it to the side and let it marinate for about 30 minutes. You don't want it to marinate too long. Just let it sit for about 30 minutes before you put it on the grill. And that gives us time to get our slaw made. Okay, now that we've got our steaks marinating, we're going to start making the marinade for our vegetable slaw. I'm going to start with some garlic. You just need a couple of cloves of garlic. You want to take your knife, put it on top of the garlic, and use the palm of your hand to smash the garlic. That makes it really easy to peel it, and it cuts down on the prep time for you chopping it as well. Now that it's already kind of flattened, I'm just going to use the back of my knife kind of flatten it just a little bit more, and then I'm going to mince it. You want to try to get it as small as you possibly can, just because you don't want anybody to bite into a big chunk of garlic. It's only going to do a quick marinade, so the garlic's still going to be very raw. You can use your knife to kind of help flatten it. It kind of turns it into a paste. And this releases all the natural oils in the garlic as well. We're going to take our garlic and we're going to put it into a salad dressing shaker. We're going to make our marinade in here. If you don't like that much garlic, feel free to cut back on the garlic. I just happen to really like garlic. And the health benefits of garlic for your heart are well worth it. Next, we're going to move on to preparing the olive oil and vinegar. Okay, you're going to get a measuring cup, and we're also going to use a packet of Italian dressing. So you basically want to follow the recipe on the back of the package for as much oil and vinegar as it requires. And you're also going to need like 3 tablespoons of water as well. But to start with, you're going to work with 1/4 cup of vinegar. I'm using today a roasted garlic vinegar. It's a red wine vinegar, but it's infused with roasted garlic. So we want 1/4 cup of vinegar. And actually, if you look on your shaker, a lot of times they'll have it already on the shaker as to where to fill it to. Okay, need to make my hole a little bigger. So there's 1/4 cup of the vinegar. Just gonna get a little water and fill that to the water line. And now I'm going to use an organic extra virgin olive oil. We're going to add our packet of seasoning. Put our lid back on. Make sure it's on tight and give it a good shake. Now that our marinade is ready, we're going to move on and start prepping our vegetables. Now, a tool that I like to use is a mandolin. I have this little vegetable slicer. You want to be very careful though. It has a very extremely sharp blade. This is something you do not want your children to do. You want to make sure that this is monitored. I'm going to start with some peppers. I like to just cut it in half, get the seeds out of it, before I slice it. And then you just want to make thin slices. And again, be very careful that you don't cut yourself. And the same thing with the other half. we're just going to add those into our bowl. And I'm going to do one more red pepper. Okay, now that the peppers are in the bowl, we're going to move on to our yellow summer squash. It just has such a wonderful flavor. It can be eaten raw, and when it's sliced thinly, the marinade kind of gives it that cooked kind of feel, even though it's raw, which retains all of its nutrients. So we're going to just, again, slice them nice and thin. It's okay if it pops up like that, just move it out of your way. And these have been pre-washed. Always make sure to wash your vegetables when you bring them home. Okay, move on to the next one. Just make sure that you cut off the little end before you start to slice. And I'm just going to move these so they don't continue to get caught. Now that we've got our yellow squash in the bowl, we're going to move on to some zucchini. Again, it's a summer vegetable. It's another type of a squash, and it is very high in nutrients. And we're just going to continue to keep slicing. We're going to do 2 of these. Now that we have our zucchini all sliced up and in the bowl, we're going to move on to a cucumber. I like to use cucumber because it's very refreshing, a light taste that's not going to be overpowering. You can either leave the peel on or remove the peel. I'm going to go ahead and remove the peel. So now I've peeled the cucumber and I'm going to get it all sliced up. You notice I'm doing everything in uniform sizes. This way it all marinates equally and you'll have a nice texture throughout the salad or slaw. We're going to go ahead and get this into the bowl. And now we're just going to go on to some onion. Now you can use as much or as little onion as you like. I'm going to use about 1/4 of this red onion. So I'm just going to cut it in half. And then cut it in half again. Make sure to peel off the outer layer, just because it's very fibrous and doesn't taste very good. And then again, you just want to slice them nice and thin. I leave the little end on, so it kind of gives me something to hold on to so I don't slice my finger going down too far. And there you go. I don't like to use a lot of onion because I don't want it to overpower. Just want that flavor. And I like the red onion. It has a different kind of flavor than your other onions. It's a little bit strong, but not too overpowering. Okay. We're finished with this. Now I'm going to chop up a few chives. Again, they're very mild in flavor. They have kind of an oniony taste, but it's not like the red onion. It's much, much milder. You just want to chop them up nice and fine. Now I've got the chives all chopped up, and I'm just going to add them to our bowl. I have some little grape tomatoes. I just think they're cute little tomatoes and they have a nice sweet flavor. I'm just gonna halve them and then add them to our salad. Now I've done up about half of the container of the grape tomatoes. And the last thing that we're gonna add to our salad is some cheese. It's a Parmigiano. It's a Parmesan and cheddar blend. I'm just gonna grate this cheese and I'm just gonna go ahead and grate it right into our salad, our slaw. I'm only gonna do about half of it now, and then as you serve it, go ahead and grate a little bit on top of everybody's plate. It'll give you a contrast in the texture because this cheese is going to start to soften a little as it sits in the marinade. So now that we have everything in the bowl, I'm going to go ahead and just pour our marinade, give it a shake real quick. I'm going to pour about half of this in there. And I'm also going to sprinkle just a little bit of basil. I'm going to take my spoon and give it a stir. I want to get everything mixed together well. And just see if everything is coated with the marinade. If it's not coated, feel free to add some more. I think we need just a little more. Okay, so now that we've got it all mixed up, I'm just going to taste it to make sure that we have our seasonings right. I'm going to add a little pepper. You want to salt and pepper it to your tastes. I'm also going to add just a little bit of salt. I like to use a sea salt, an all-natural sea salt. One more taste. Perfect. So now we're going to set this aside and let all those ingredients mellow together, marry the flavors, and then by the time our steak is done, this will be ready to go with it. Okay, so now we're outside at the grill. We're going to go ahead and get our steaks on. We've got the grill nice and hot. You want to hear that nice sizzle. And then we're going to cover it and let them cook for about 5 to 10 minutes depending on how well done you like them. And then we'll come back out and we'll flip them and see how they're doing. Okay, so now we're going to turn our steaks over. You want to use tongs whenever you're dealing with your meats that you're grilling. You don't want to puncture the meat and put holes in it and lose all those delicious juices. And we'll come back in about 5 more minutes and these should be ready to be pulled off.
Go ahead.
Okay, so now our steaks are done. We're going to get them off the grill. We're going to put them in a pan here. And I'm going to take them and cover them with tin foil and let them rest for about 5 minutes so that those juices can redistribute throughout the meat and keep the meat nice and moist. Okay, so now our steak has rested for about 5 minutes. We're just going to go ahead and start slicing it up. Remember, you always want to cut against the grain. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a very chewy piece of meat. You want to cut it in kind of nice thin little pieces. Okay, I'm going to take these 3 right here. I'm just going to arrange them on my plate. We're going to get some of this delicious slaw that we made with all these summer vegetables. This is a very healthy, low-carb meal. So if you're on a special diet and you're trying to avoid breads, pastas, starches, things like that, this would be a perfect meal for any night of the week. I'm going to go ahead and give this a taste. Cooked perfectly. Right amount of seasoning, nice and juicy and moist. That marinade has softened the vegetables, but they still have a nice crunch to them, a nice little bit of acid to them, but not very overpowering. Absolutely wonderful meal. Thank you again for tuning in to butterfliesdownhomerecipes.com. I hope that you'll join us again next week for another video and continue to watch our videos as we progress. If you would like to make a donation, we are going to be setting up a PayPal account for this. Any donations would be greatly appreciated so that we can continue to make these videos. Thank you.